Welcome to ICC Crack the Wellness Code Wellness Support Group, the 9th session of the year. And today we're going to focus on occupational wellness, a very interesting topic. We have three very interesting members of the community who are going to share their experience and their perception on occupational wellness. It's not a very common term, so you must be wondering what and how. So we'll definitely unveil the secrets of occupational wellness. And of course, Prasad Kaipa, who's our guest speaker, he's going to also give you some exercises. There are some golden words and golden nuggets that he's going to share with you. So it will be very useful if you are ready with paper and pen, or if you want to go digital, keep your digital devices ready to make notes, because there are certain very interesting aspects that you're going to share. There may be some exercises as well. So be ready for that, and let's get going. So we have our guest speaker and three very interesting members of the community, Urvi Shah, and then Aishwarya Ramanathan and Dr. Sachin Deshmukh. Three of them, they share a similar kind of occupation and similar kind of, I would say, mission in life. So it will be great to hear from them. And I would now request Urvi to switch on your video and tell us about your story very briefly, your perception on occupational wellness, and what is it, what does it mean to you, and some examples why you think it's important and how it can help our community. Yeah, over to you, Urvi.
So my name is Urvi. I take meditation, pranayam. I also take vagus nerve relaxation breathwork class at ICC Tri-Valley chapter, and making people more aware about meditation is my passion. So I take sessions for all different platforms, for all different age groups, including teens, kids, adults, all different part of community. And my journey started long time ago, many years ago, when I was diagnosed with anxiety, and it just really made my life very difficult to survive. I wasn't able to work, I wasn't able to drive, I wasn't able to sleep well. Life was really messy for me that time, and at one point I decided to stop everything and get back in control of my life. And that's when I was introduced with meditation, and which just magically changed it. I would say it just requires many efforts, but yeah, it just changed my life tremendously. I wasn't actually I not just I just reached back to the normal, but it was better than before. My life actually um, was much more, I feel more, complete. So basically meditation helped me, and it just made my life much more better than previous whatever was going through. And that's where I just decided to dedicate my life to spread awareness about meditation. So there are lots of benefits about meditation, and I think we all know it, but there is one thing I would really like to mention, that uh, it doesn't mean that meditation is going to take away all the challenges. It doesn't take all the challenges from my life. There will be always a challenges. There will be traffic, there will be the work with the kids, and then stress at the work. Everything will be there. But for example, if I just can say that, from the scale 1 to 10, if we just think that 10 is always we are stressed and irritated and frustrated, and 1 where we feel that bliss. Normally we average, we fall into the category of 7 to 8. We just feel some good part of the day, and then we just drop back to the stress and anxiety and worries and irritation. But with the help of meditation, I just quickly get back to, so quickly getting back to the normal is something that I learned from meditation. Uh, it's just something that we all wanted to experience. We don't want it to be in stress throughout the day, because we are not here to feel the stress. Stress is the number one reason for the major illnesses, we all know that. And so I feel that we are here to enjoy, we are here to thrive, we are here to feel empowered, and we are here to empower others. That is why we are here. So it's a lifestyle change. That's what I say to everyone. And I can talk about it for hours, but here we have a limited time. So uh, that would be it from me. I also do many workshops about changing a lifestyle, not just meditation, but it's a major changes that we need to do over the lifestyle. And maybe in the future, we can just do the other workshops with ICC and reach out to you guys for all the benefits that I can explain. So thank you all for joining and have a wonderful week. If you have more questions, we can always answer in the Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you, Urvi. We'll hear more from you during the question answer and interactive session. But thanks for sharing your story, and very inspiring. And of course, there'll be questions coming up later. So let me now invite Aishwarya to share a story. She's also a wellness enthusiast. She's also into yoga and meditation, and she's also getting inclined to be part of CWC, and she's also going to be supporting some of our endeavors tomorrow. So welcome to you, Aishwarya. Look forward to hearing your story and your perception, and then of course we'll also engage you with the interactive session. So over to you, Aishwarya.
Thank you. Namaste, everyone. My name is Aishwarya. I am a home bakery owner, yoga teacher, training to be a therapist, and also an artist. I used to be a mobile application developer. So I used to be in the cutting edge technology after my graduation, computer science and management. But my experience is, I'm just going to jump right into my experience because that itself will sort itself out. So occupational wellness, here we are talking about occupational wellness. It means at the end of the day, whether your work-life balance, like we call it, has to be in a way that you're happy at the end of the day, one, and two, you're not burnt out. See, all the master's graduate, even when I was a master's graduate, I used to actually run myself, because the only thing that we ought to do is to read, study, and run the race, right? So we did, and we did get a job, and we did run the race there as well. So we don't realize, the graduate, especially the fresh graduates out of college, we don't realize that, like, hey, 13-hour works or 15-hour work, or like maybe 36 hours of no sleeping, all of these kind of effects that has on your body. I mean, it does show up for sure. But we don't realize it at that point in time. And that's exactly what happened to me. I really got burnt out when I was in my when I was at work, and I was actually a technical lead. I was doing so many cutting edge things, but I was completely burnt out, because at the end of the day, all I want to do is binge watch something hours and hours together. So that was my lifestyle, and that really had a big toll on my health over a period of time, which we don't realize at all. So what actually is giving you the sense of burnt out is basically the stress. So we don't realize, like we say, like, hey, I'm doing my work, the work stress is always there, chalega, but that's not the case. You actually bring back all of that stress, which seeps into your body and thus causing other health ailments. And by taking up yoga, it actually changed my life. I have been a more effective person right now, in terms of like I said, I was just a software engineer and that's it. I didn't have a work-life balance, but now I do. I am able to actually successfully balance all the three things that I am very passionate about. And I have what you call a sense of satisfaction at the end of the day, whether it be financial, whether it be the complete satisfaction of, oh, okay, I did my job and it was great, and that's it. Plus, I do have time for my family. I do have time for my passion, like art and everything. So things like that. So it helped me, yoga really helped me kind of understand myself, find my place and balance my life much better and taking the stress out of the equation.
Thank you for sharing your story,
Definitely. Thank you.
which is not only inspiring, but something that we can all relate to, and really appreciate putting that across to the participants here. So requesting Dr. Sachin Deshmukh. He of course has been into wellness for a long time, and of course he has been managing a lot of things. During the pandemic, I don't have the numbers, but he'll tell you he was managing so many sessions. He switches from one occupation to another occupation, and his own occupation is something that he has completed some 5,000 hours or more than that of actual practice sessions. He'll tell you more about that. How does he juggle? How does he do it? And what is his own perception of occupational wellness? So let's hear from Dr. Sachin Deshmukh. Thank you.
Right.
Sachin,
Thank you
over to
so
you.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So may I just work in the field of the mind-body yoga, and coming from the medical background, I used to practice medicine in India, and I shifted it to the wellness when I came to US. So for me, the work is part of living. So it's not work-life balance and things like that. My grandparents were very particular. So my grandfather was a yoga master, and he taught us a simple principle that work is our worship. Karma yoga is the yoga of action. So we should love what we do, and then it doesn't become a chore. It becomes part of our living. And second principle is that whatever you do because you want to do it versus you are supposed to do it. That makes a big difference. That removes the stress because you are choosing what you're doing. So I am always amazed to see people when they say, I hate my job, or they have pit in their stomach on Monday, because I'm actually looking forward to what I'm doing every time, no matter what it is. So that's and then when you do the job, the Karma Yoga, then you are not looking for the fruit out of it. And then it becomes the purpose. Service is my purpose. So everything I do is related to the service, which actually helped me to transition very smoothly into the life cycle, where you dedicate everything to a specific reason, and it brings fulfillment instead of any negative theme, or you don't feel tired, you feel actually more inspired to do so. Then you also treat others in the path just like how you feel like you should be treated. And then in yoga taught us that principle that it should be like a yagya, your special theme, that where it becomes a mission for us to cherish every moment. Shankaracharya said, Charaivati, Charaivati means keep moving, keep innovating, keep modifying, and keep updating everything. And then other thing I learned is that always think of everything as an asset than the liability. So when you look at something as an asset, it's our mind, it's our body, it's our environment, it's anything we choose to do. It always brings us the joy and the accomplishment and happiness, called as santosha, or the contentment. And we always then think big, dream big, because we are doing something for enhancing our lives, other people's lives around us, and support them, support each other. And then what's our legacy? Because we all want to do something, leave our imprint on this planet when we leave this body. So the legacy is that how many hearts we touch, and not exactly what we do, but the impact we leave on people's mind and their lives for whatever simplest thing we can do. And the last equation, which helped me to balance everything, like Som was saying, I had recognition now to be taught over 40,000 plus hours of these mind-body things over last 2 decades. And so the simple principle is that my grandfather gave me a formula that 2 walks, 2 meditation, and 2 meals. And That's really keeps me going. So we always have success with one walk, one meal, and one meditation. Struggle always normally comes for the second one. But when we master it, life becomes very, very organized, a perfect principle and joyful state. So that's how I will end it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sachin. And, without much ado, I want to once again introduce to our guest speaker, Dr. Prasad Kaipa. You can see his bio there, and he can also tell you about his journey. He says, he's in a state of retirement, but I don't see any signs of that. The kind of engagement that he has and the kind of community service that he does is just amazing. So and another thing is that he's going to actually share a lot of his rich experience. So just to remind you, be ready to take notes, whether you are using a digital device or using your good old paper and pen. So a lot of good stuff coming from Dr. Prasad Kaipa. And thank you once again for being with us and joining us this morning. Over to you, Dr. Kaipa.
Thank you very much. When we talk about occupational wellness, as Sachinji and Aishwarya, as well as Urvi just shared just now, there is a lot of different perspectives that we can bring in. And as one of them just mentioned, when you love what you do, I think it was mentioned by more than one person, when you love what you do, somehow, if whatever you do, you start loving. So in some respects, that is exactly the story of Viktor Frankl. Have you heard of Dr. Viktor Frankl, or how many of you have come across his book, Man's Search for Meaning? Because it's an amazing book. In case you have not come across it, I highly recommend you get a copy of it. It may be available in a PDF format, or you can get it because it has sold over tens of millions of copies, and it is one of the top books in there. Especially for occupational wellness. Why I think of Dr. Viktor Frankl is that he was a psychiatrist and a neurologist who got so passionate about meaning that even when he was in high school, he got in touch with what you call Freud, who used to be from Vienna, where Dr. Viktor Frankl was also from. And he connected with Freud and actually sent out some of his writings and papers. So while he was in high school, his first paper was published in Psychological Review, and then next paper got published just before he graduated. He worked with Adler, he worked with Freud, and then he created his own methodology about need for meaning. And he was actually put in concentration camp. His parents and his wife, whom he got married just a few months ago, they were all gassed and they were all killed. And he was asked to serve other patients in 3 different camps over a period of time. And he was wondering, he's a doctor, he's a researcher doing research on meaning, but he was put into menial situation where he was supposed to help the other concentration camp prisoners to live so that the camp guards can get more work out of those people. But one day he realized whatever he was talking about meaning is applicable to himself. So he realized that if he can work with the prisoners to find meaning in whatever they are doing, their life becomes a lot better. And that resulted in a large amount of work. He wrote over 20, 30 books, and he passed away only in 1997. I had a chance to listen to him once or twice. I recommend you look at it in case you are looking at some of this. Instead of giving a talk, I thought I will do a mini workshop with you. So as so mentioned, I hope you have paper and pencil with you, or a pens, or you can do it on a digital one, but it is easier to do it in an old-fashioned way. So I'm going to give you specific words. Rate first, there will be two kinds of ratings that you will do. First, you rate on how important these are for you. Rate from 0 to 10. Don't think too much about it. Whatever number that comes to you from 0 to 10, just put them. If you didn't think about them, they don't even mean anything to you, or this is the first time you are hearing, put 0. And of course, this is something you are constantly working on. You put 10. All right. So let us start with it. Purpose. Passion, 0 to 10. Meaning. Gratitude. How many of you think gratitude is extremely important for your occupational wellness and overall wellness? Challenge. How many are you, especially with the COVID situation and everything that is going on, how many of you are challenged and feel overwhelmed? And how important do you think challenge is for your life? Optimism. Some people say, I speak it as it is and I tell the truth. I don't care how it affects you, but because this is the truth. Or you create an optimistic, positive way of looking at things. Again, positivity. This is slightly different from optimism. We'll talk more about it as we need. Energy. How important is energy for you? So once you rated them for whatever numbers that you have put in, I'd like you to relook at them. How do you bring them to your work? So do you think about purpose at work? Why you are working? What you are working towards? If that is so, from 0 to 10, rate yourself. How passionate are you in doing the work that you are doing? Rate yourself. How much of meaning you find in doing the tasks that you do day after day after day in your work? Rate yourself 0 to 10. Do you feel the gratitude in doing the work that you do and in working with the people that you work with? Rate again 0 to 10. How much of challenge do you feel in your work, and how grateful are you for the challenges that are helping you to learn new skills and new capabilities? Rate yourself. How optimistic are you at your work that your career and your life, your work is going to get better and better? When you deal with the difficult situations at work, are you positive, hopeful, or are you a person cynical? Are you a person difficult to be with for other people when you are going through challenging situations? And finally, how much of energy do you have working day after day after day? Rate yourself from 0 to 10. Now look at where you are and see the gaps that you have when you say these are important for you, and how much are you bringing it to your work. So if before even going too much further, I would say if there is a big gap between how you say they are important and how they show up at your work, then first thing you may want to do is bridge the gap. See what activities you can do to increase these 9 things in your work. Every day, I have a feeling your occupational wellness will jump by minimum 20% in the next few days. Let's do a little bit more. There is a Japanese concept called Ikigai, which connects with what some of the previous speakers, Sachin, Aishwarya, and Urvi just mentioned about. At some level, you need to bring a balance. And you need to look at whatever you have as your vocation and avocation, your profession, and some of them you need to really look at. You need to really think about and say, how do you bring what you love into the world of your work through your passion and mission? How do you take your talents and skills that you are very good at and bring them to your profession? Like, let us say, let me give you an example. My daughter wanted to be a journalist, And when she went to UC Berkeley, she decided that journalism professors and the TAs, teaching assistants, were not really helpful. So she decided she will do sociology and political science at as part of her majors. And then when she got out, she wanted to do a lot of nonprofit work. And while she was working, she was so passionate about camping and hiking and rock climbing and some other things. Somebody in a party overheard her talking to another friend who was really stressed out to go outdoors and spend some camping and weekends with the nature. And he came and actually kind of recruited her for the outdoorsy company. And from there, she looked at what she can do, because her degree is liberal arts and she was into sociology and political science, what she can do in a company like that. But she found her journalism passion and marketing that was needed, and documentation and writing various things, writing stories, creating a marketing, related type of stuff, messages, she was very good at. And then she said she found out she could be really well paid for her organizing mind. So she connected what she loves with what the world needs. And now she's making probably 2 times more than what a journalist she could have made for her stage in life. And so like that, you can figure out a way to connect the dots. Now, let's do another exercise. This is called a lifeline exercise. Probably many of you are familiar with it. I'm going to do a version which several times is being done in Stanford Business School and many of the business schools which I had an opportunity to teach. So what I want you to do is, if you have 2 color pens or pencil and a pen, choose 2 things that will be helpful for you. And, one color, you represent it for your personal life. Another, you represent it for your work life. And the exercise is about reflecting on your life as far as you can remember. Obviously, you probably started working later, like maybe in your late teens or 20s, but your life, however much you remember, some of the words I said, passion, purpose, meaning, gratitude, think about some of those. And also, you may talk about the level of satisfaction you had with your life, level of fulfillment you experience with your work. So some of those you do. So you can, you don't have to go 0 to 10. You can make the fulfillment as high as you want or as low as you want. So what I want you to do we'll do this exercise very quickly, do it in about 5 minutes. But again, these exercises are about bringing your subconscious and unconscious also into play. So don't overthink this exercise. So once you do it, we'll do some questions. So this is how it looks. So what is the upside? You put it on the top. What is downside in your life? What are the negative things, the negative fulfillment, negative satisfaction, or where you feel you had really bad times, you put them down. What I recommend is think about at various times, put the dots up or down, depending on what you feel at this moment about them. And then afterwards, you can connect the dots if you like. Okay. So if you are older than 70, I know there are some people who are older than 70. You may want to extend this to whatever is your age. And some of you are probably 20, 30, 40. You may elongate it. Instead of doing every 10 years, you could do it only for every 5 years. So take a couple of minutes and draw this lifeline. Right. So first, for personal life, so whatever you consider as a whole life, you draw them. Oh, I see. Oh, when I was 7 years old, my sister was born. And it was the first memory I have. And there was so much of joy because I had a brother after me, and to have a sister, it was fun to play with her. So that was a high point in my life. Then I think about it and say, I failed an exam at age 11. So that was a low point in my life. So like that, you think about where you had a satisfaction, fulfillment, high points and low points, mark them up. All right. So once you do that, you can do the same thing for work. When you started work, what kind of passion, purpose, meaning you felt in your first job? What happened? How did you change? Did you change your career? Like Dr. Sachin Deshmukh said, he was a physician in India, and then he became yoga and meditation expert. I know how wonderful his yoga is because Dinesh Chandra sends the messages on every day for me. I really love the work that Dr. Sachin Deshmukh does. And also similarly, I'm part of Yoga Bharati and Samskrita Bharati, and I love the kind of volunteering and kind of work that they do and how much of joy so many hundreds of thousands of people are experiencing when people do their yoga, do their meditation, do their reflections, do their walks, some of them. All right. Now, I hope you completed this. Let's look at one part. What I want to do in this is, let me ask you some questions in this before I go to the next exercise. When you look at it, are the feelings that you are having, are they the same which you had when you actually experienced them? Or did the feelings change? Look at it and see whether, did you have the same level of fulfillment and satisfaction at that time as you are experiencing now, or are they different? If so, why so? Or were there any surprises? Maybe you lost a job, maybe you lost somebody in your life, or maybe you went through divorce, maybe there is a death of a person near and dear. How did you feel about those situations at that time, and how do you feel about them? On a separate sheet of paper, flip the page. On another paper, write down answers to some of these questions, okay? This will be very helpful to you as you go forward at the end of the day. What are 5 things you value the most in life right now? When I say that you value the most, you pay the most amount of, you are not negotiating like our Indian attitude to look at it and say, can I get a deal on that? You are not trying to do it. You are willing to pay full price for it, or you are willing to sacrifice what you have, or you are willing to fight for it. What are 5 things you value the most in your life? Because this is the most important, and this is like foundation for everything. Write those down, like in about 30 seconds. If you're done, write down 3 most important goals in your life right now. Again, in 30 seconds or less. What are your 3 important goals right now? Just some phrases, just some things, put that in. Next, what would you do if you won $1 million in lottery tomorrow? By the way, for Silicon Valley people, $1 million don't mean very much because you can't even buy a house here. Make it $10 million. What would you do if you won $10 million in lottery tomorrow? By the way, what I'm asking you is, what would you do first as soon as you came to know you won $10 million? What will be the first step, second step, and third step? I'm asking you to write it in sequence. Okay. What will you do first when you hear you won the lottery? What will you do second? What will you do third? All right. Question number 4. What would you do with your life if you were to have no mental, physical, or resource limitations of any kind? What will be your ambition in life? What would you do if you have no limitations of any kind? No mental, no physical, no resources like money or time or people. You can get anything you want. What would you do with your life? If you can write an answer, if you are able to crystallize your thoughts about your ambition, chances are you are capable of achieving it. But of course, you will have to have the persistence, intensity and willingness to put in the hard work. Like we have Naren, Bakshi and other people here, they can tell you how hard it is to build a startup. They have built it, their children built it, and now their grandchildren are trying to do for-profit, non-profit service activities, anything you want to do. How much of time and energy and passion you are going to put into that? Next one. If you can live with perfect health for 6 months and on the 180th day, don't talk to me about 30 days, 31 days. So forgive me, I'm just saying I'm taking every month to have only 30 days here. You're going to die on 180th day. What would you do between now and then? This is not a 30-second. Take a minute, write down just about 3 to 5 things that are very important to you that you will do if you know for sure you will die in 6 months. What are the most important things to you that you want to do before you die? Write them quickly, write them as phrases. You don't need to write the full sentences. Next. What is it that you always wanted to do with your life, but you held back from doing based on what other people said or you think other people might say? Especially the Indian community can be very, prescriptive. If I'm very negative, I'll say we can be very judgmental as parents or as community elders. Sometimes we have very strong opinions on what is dharma, what is not dharma, what you should be doing, what you should not be doing. And of course, why is that? Because our parents did that to us and we turned out just fine. And we say the same thing to our children. But some of these hurt people. Some of these hold back people. Like that, what have you been holding back? What is it that you want to do if you have total freedom to do whatever you could do? You may think I'm not doing it because I'm afraid to fail, but actually you have inculcated it over a period of time. Next question. What type of activity gives you the greatest feeling of importance, self-esteem, and self-satisfaction? In other words, you feel great about engaging in this kind of activity. So like a service activity, it could be, work activity, it could be, or a particular role in your work that you like to do that gives you the greatest part of satisfaction. For example, if you are a doctor, you might look at it and say, talking to patients is the most important, not the surgery, even though I'm a surgeon, but actually talking to patients and then giving them the confidence and giving them the strength to continue doing before and after. Yes, as a surgeon, I do great surgeries and I'm good, but I enjoy and I feel the greatest feeling of satisfaction in talking to people, preparing them for surgery and preparing for life. Like that, what is the key area of excellence for you? Okay, last question. It has A and B parts. You received only one wish from genie. With 7.7 billion people, genie cannot give 3 wishes to everybody. So it has decided it will only give you one. It says you could achieve anything, you could reach anything you want. What is one great thing you dare to dream? What is one thing you dare to dream? If you were to know that you will succeed, there is no way you will fail. Beyond the shadow of doubt, Genie will make it happen for you. What is it that you want to achieve? What is it that you want to reach? Okay, write it down. And after that, Genie says, because Genie is not God, right? Genie has its own ulterior motives. It says, what are you willing to sacrifice to get that wish? That means you already have it, you already value it, but you need to sacrifice what you have to get what you want. How badly do you want this wish, greatest thing that you are daring to dream, that you are willing to give up what you have? And what are you willing to give up? All right. So look at some of those. When you wrote those answers, look through the answers, and then we can talk more about it. I can do another session some other time if you like, some of the frameworks and why I'm putting together. But for now, I'm going to stop my workshop or a mini workshop. And now we will go into question and answer session. So in here, I can try to answer it or something else. But if not, you might want to think about some of the first slides that I have given you, some of the first set of things like Ikigai, and some of the things which I wanted you to look at: purpose, passion, motivation, gratitude. I'm trying to really give you some tools to really dig into and discover what they are and how to put them in practice. So I can elaborate if you need some things in the questions and answers, but for now, let me take the questions you have.
And Dinesh is asking, if my current job is against my values, how can I move towards a job that supports my value? This is such a billion-dollar question, Prasad.
Yeah.
Over to you. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Dinesh, for a good, wonderful beginning to look at it. If your job is against your values, there are two ways in which you want to look at it. One is figure out whether there is a way in which your vocation and avocation can be separated. What I mean by that is, you can look at it and say, okay, this is not supporting my values, but some of the values that the job requires, I can also focus on those alone. So I will do this not with my full passion, not with my full energy. I'm going to do this just to earn the money. So that means you have a larger part of yourself. You are going to separate it in terms of who you are and what you are trying to do. And then the other part is just to earn the money, that you keep it on the table. That's one answer. But that may not be very satisfactory to you. So then what you do is you actually take a, what you might call a risky decision. You tell people, your manager or various other people, take advantage of other opportunities, like what is it that you want to do? Put it out, especially with the social media these days. You can actually say, I have these skills, I have these talents, and I have these values, and I'm really passionate. I'm willing to put in my 120%. If any of you are interested in doing so and so, so and so. These are some things which I've done. Put it in LinkedIn, put it in Facebook, put it on Twitter, and talk to your friends and talk passionately about what are the kinds of things that you can contribute and what are some examples. Chances are you will find these days really opportunities very quickly, especially if you are a capable, talented person. Most problem is a value match. I recommend in the next 6 months, you plan to move to a job that matches your values. That is what I recommend.
So, Prasad, I must tell you, even though I may have known a lot, but you have given a framework that was wonderful. So let me tell you, in my case, I'm at age 77. When I look back, I honestly feel very blessed. And the reason has been that now I'm doing exactly what I want to do. And I'm able to work 12 hours a day and have energy. But you have explained to me why.
Wonderful.
If I look back at my life, on personal side, the biggest moments have been when I was at Berkeley. I started the India Student Association there. Then I went to Cleveland, and one of the opportunities came around, started India Community Center. So that was a big thing. I can look back and say, wow, right? Then I come to Silicon Valley. I get excited about entrepreneurship. So I get involved in TIE. So for Som knows, for some number of years, that was my passion. I did nothing, that was my passion. After that, I also got involved in India Community Center. So for some period of time, that's all, I mean, my best, right? But then in last 3 years, because of the reasons of my own, I have found a new purpose. So the point I'm trying to make is, in the life, purpose can also change,
Yes.
right? Your passion might change. It doesn't mean that I don't believe in those things, but today that's my purpose. So you
Can I give a 1 minute coaching to you?
please do.
See, what if you can combine the TIE and the what you call India Community Center, or many of these things, what you are doing in Jaipur and trying to deal with that, starting a Jaipur TIE, various other startups which you looked at. Maybe something about serving the community. Maybe it is about actually building the community to do larger service. Maybe that is your purpose. If you look at it, the action within the purpose, see, the purpose is the larger vision, like a North Star. Then you have vision for ICC, or vision for TIE, or vision for Jaipur. So once you have that purpose, then became vision. Out of that, you got the passion and you took action. So I would say you created meaning while instead of saying they are all different purposes, maybe you had the same purpose. They manifested differently in different parts of your life. If you think that way, then you can connect one purpose from the beginning to the end, and then you can take it forward.
Thank you very much. And the only thing else I can tell you is that in a way, I have connected the dot because I'm still the founding trustee of ICC, but my bigger effort is on CWC.
Wonderful.
Because it doesn't mean that I gave up on ICC. It doesn't mean that I have given up on TIE. It is just the amount of energy that is going on is different. That's all.
Exactly.
I think I answered one of the Q&As that actually popped by, and based on, of course, we have heard so many times from Prasadji, and every time it is actually a different kind of bulb that goes off somewhere, for sure. You will be able to actually connect a lot of things when you actually are more attentive, in other words, awareness. Yes. So those kind of building exercises and everything is going to be very, very helpful. And Prasadji, I also wanted to actually connect with you later, if here is not the time. There is something called as a personality test called Enneagram, right?
Yeah, Enneagram. I'm very familiar with Enneagram.
Correct. Yes, yeah. So that is also a similar kind of like what you actually mentioned. I think the Japanese style, Ikigai. So yeah, so things like all of these are actually kind of lost in time, to be frank, right? Because when I actually heard about Enneagram, I was like, what is it? But it was very, very helpful to understand the basis of it and everything. So my suggestion, and I'm thankful to CWC to bring this panel, and I'm sure this would be a very, very big hit. I mean, due course, for sure, because this is very helpful. People need to know the things that is available in front of them so that they can take full advantage of it. And also kind of like, find the balance of what we are talking about here. What we are talking about is what we call the equilibrium in yoga, for example, right? If you find the equilibrium of what you want to do and where you are at a personal front, you would be at a stable. So in simple words, I'll tell my, like everybody I possibly come across to say, if you have both the feet on your ground and let's say a root is down in the bottom, if you're stable, whatever amount of hurricane or whatever it is, you will be able to manage to keep your feet on the ground. So for that, what I'm in this particular sense, in this occupational wellness context, so one leg is your work and one leg is your leisure. You don't let either of them pull you away.
Everybody agrees to the common theme is that your purpose in life really drives the occupation, right? And the passion, when we are really immersed into the experience of what we want to do versus we are supposed to do, it makes the big difference. So thanks for the pointer. That was very powerful. And I feel very fortunate that I was raised with that spirit without knowing it. So I never understood why people struggle with their careers or choices and why it caused them stress and enjoyment.
You had a great lineage, Sachin, and that's of course something which is very truly unique. But what's more important, you have retained that. I think that's a blessing that you had, and you have, very consistently and persistently, retained that path, right? Which is sometimes, I won't say challenging, but sometimes, we all drift, right? You never drifted. You are so aligned with what was destined for you. And Prasad, what a fantastic presentation. I mean, this itself is a learning course. We have been talking about micro learning. I can cut out so many things from what you said, Prasad. So this was illuminating, very illustrative, and this is just a beginning with you, Prasad. We are so blessed to have people like yourselves. And my final word to all the participants who have been here today,